Welcome back to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, we have former Sacred Heart superstar and this past season's Atlantic Hockey scoring champion, Austin McIlmurray. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and how's everything going?
Everything's going well, man. Thank you for having me. Just trying to survive this whole pandemic and quarantine kind of deal in South Florida. It's obviously pretty crazy down here right now. So just trying to stay in it, trying to train as much as I can and stay on the ice as much as I can as well.
Well, yeah, and overall, how's quarantine been for you, and what have you been doing to pass the time?
So during this time, I guess it's been really tough. Like I'm transitioning into professional hockey. So, a lot of leagues aren't really signing guys right now. And even the ones that are, they're not sure when they're coming back. So for me, it's been kind of staying in the moment, staying ready as best as I can. I've been training 5 days a week in the morning from 8 to 11:30 off ice. And then, 2 to 3 times a week, I've been getting on the ice, trying to stay on my skates as much as I can. But other than that, playing a little golf here and there because that's about the only other thing we could really do right now down here. So, hanging with my friends, spending time with my family, and that's about it.
And on the Sacred Heart website, it says you're from Florida. So my first question to you is, how did you start playing hockey in such an unconventional spot?
So my father is actually from Michigan. He was born and raised there. He played hockey his entire life, him and his brothers both. And when I actually have an older brother, he's 7 years older than me. So growing up, my older brother played down here. And, obviously watching my older brother play, it was something that I wanted to do. So I just, anything he did, I wanted to do. So I followed my older brother's footsteps and started playing. And, I the second I put the skates on, it was, the story's told from there. So I never took them off. But, that's how I got into it.
And who was your favorite player growing up?
Growing up, it was so it's a little different from right now. So right now, my favorite players probably Mike Hoffman and Oliver Bjorkstrand from Columbus. I think I relate to both of them a lot the way I play. But back in the day, it would probably be Sergei Fedorov. I was a diehard Red Wings fan because of my dad, and I just loved the way 91 could fly. So I wore 91 my entire life until I couldn't, honestly, until I went to prep school. So.
That's great. And before Sacred Heart, you played for the Selects Academy under-18 team. Talk about that experience and what it meant to you.
So when I played, I originally left home at 14 to go to prep school at South Kent, where I played for Selects Hockey Academy. I went there for 4 years, all 4 years of high school before transitioning into my year of junior. Honestly, it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. Florida hockey is, you have your handful of standouts who have a lot of success, but in order to continue to have success in the game and grow into the game, you have to essentially move away from home at an early age. And, for me, I was always stuck just like all the other good Florida born players, I was stuck in the phase of being like one of the better guys. So things came easy. And, when I went there, it was a lot different. Everybody was the best from where they were from. So I think learning how to deal with adversity, learning how to play the game the right way, that was unbelievable for my growth in the hockey side. But as far as like the school side as well, it was incredible. I made friends that'll last a lifetime, and I made family too. Some of the faculty that were at South Kent and even my coaches to this day, I still talk to those guys all the time. So it was one of the best experiences of my life. I loved it, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
You then went on to play in the BCHL. How did you get the opportunity to go to British Columbia, and how did that experience help you prepare for college hockey?
So one of my best friends, he's from Florida. He also went to South Kent with me. We both went together. He was a grade above me, though. We were both 96 born, but he was a sophomore going in. I was a freshman. So he graduated a year before I did, which was our first year of U18. And then he went to the BCHL before going on to Quinnipiac. He was always the best player from wherever we were. His name's Chase Prisky. He's in the Florida Panthers organization now. He was always the best no matter what. Growing up, he was the best. Went to South Kent, he was the best. I watched him go to the BCHL and turn down the USHL to promote his offensive growth, and I saw him struggle there. So I knew the league was legit. I knew the league was really good, and I knew it was really offensive oriented. I thought that at the time I was just learning how to play offense the way I wanted to play. I thought I was just starting to get good at, shooting the puck in stride and scoring goals. Like that was my specialty. And I thought the BCHL was a better option for me than the USHL because the USHL is kind of known to be more defensive. And I was drafted by Muskegon, and they had told me that they had, kind of saw me as a third, fourth line guy, but, I'd play heavy minutes, this and that. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a top six guy who could score. So I actually went out to British Columbia in the springtime of my senior year while I was at South Kent, and I went to like a little kind of like jamboree, they called it. And all the teams from the BCHO were there. They got the opportunity to watch everybody there. And Coquitlam had reached out as well as a few others. And something about the team and where they were located, it was, too good to be true. I had to take the opportunity to go out there, and that was the best year of my life by far. I tried to play my 20-year-old junior year there, but they wouldn't let me. So Sacred Heart wouldn't let me. But it was incredible. Anybody who's considering junior, I think the BCHL is one of the best leagues you can play in.
And you had 61 total points in your 1 year at Coquitlam. What was the key to your success that year, in your opinion?
I think the key to my success would probably be, honestly, it would probably be my two line mates. I played with two of arguably the best offensive players in the league. They were able to, and both of them were veterans at the time. One was going into his third year and one was going into his second year and the other one was going into his third year. So they both had experience in the league already, and I was a rookie. So, they were the same age as me, but they had already been playing junior. They kind of took me under their wing, and they're still, two of my closest friends to this day. But I think playing with those two kind of helped me learn a little bit more about the game. I could have a tough game and walk away with, a goal and 2 assists because I was playing with such skilled players. So I think I was super lucky to play with them. And, one of them just finished up at Princeton. He had 4 30-point years at Princeton, incredible college career. And the other one had a pretty solid college career at Harvard as well, and Colton Kerfoot. So I think my biggest key to my success was being able to play with those guys all year and being able to kind of learn from them and play at their pace, and made me kind of play up to them too.
Now talk about your recruiting process. What made you want to go to Sacred Heart?
So initially, I had a couple opportunities with a couple other Division I schools, not great scholarship opportunities, but Sacred Heart kind of reached out, expressed their interest. I liked what they had to say, and where the coach at the time I was talking to kind of saw me fitting in. It kind of turned out to be, do I want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? I think that after my year at junior, I probably could have went elsewhere. I probably could have, tried to test the waters and try to play somewhere else. But I think in the ultimate end, I think that staying with Sacred Heart was the best thing for me in my development as a hockey player. So I think seeing a team that was one of the worst teams in Division I college hockey at the time, and the opportunity that presented itself, and the other recruits that were already committed, I thought that we had the chance to do something special to change a program around, and that was the coach's goal. And that was our goal in our 4 years, was to change that program. And I think, in retrospect, that was something that we did essentially accomplish. So that was why I chose Sacred Heart. And, another example of why I think that, I wouldn't look back on that. I think that was a great decision as well.
And what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to playing college hockey? Was it the physicality, playing against guys that are a lot older than you were, or was it the mental side of the game, making quicker decisions with the puck?
I think it would be a little bit of both. The physicality wasn't really that big of an issue for me. I think it was more mentally learning all sides of the puck. I was so offensively driven, and that's all I understood was offense, offense, offense. I was told at prep school, you have the ability to shoot the puck anytime you get it. That's what you should be doing. You should be getting over the blue line, trying to shoot the puck, like create space, shoot the puck. So I think in college it's a little different. It's a lot more structured. You run a lot more structured systems. So I think for me it was learning that my team didn't always need me to cheat offense to score a goal. I think it was learning the D side, which was the biggest probably adjustment to me. And, honestly, it's crazy to think. And I look back at it, and I've joked with, one of my assistant coaches about it from Sacred Heart. Like, I still to this day, like, it's crazy that it took me almost 3 years to learn how to properly play defense. And I think that's why I had my most successful this past year, is because I was able to create offense from defense. I was able to put myself into better positions in order to better my team, both on the D end and the offensive end. So I think, my biggest adjustment would probably have been the defensive side of the game, like learning how to protect the net and being reliable for your teammates.
And speaking of the coaching staff, talk about what it's like to play under Coach Martello.
Coach Maritola is awesome. I mean, he's been at Sacred Heart for, I think, almost 10 years now. And, there's a reason why the program has gotten to where it is. And Coach Maritolo, Coach McDougall, and Paul Kirtland, who just had left for Yale, I think those three guys have done an absolutely phenomenal job of assessing what they had and how they were going to fix it. I think, CJ, anywhere you go in the hockey world, now that I'm turning pro and I've been talking to some teams, it's like everybody I've ever met knows Coach Maritola. So he has an unbelievable demeanor about him. Everybody loves him. I loved him. He was awesome to me. He treated me like a son. And he was one of the guys who was really big on me learning how to play the right way. And that if I wanted to play professionally, I had to learn both sides of the puck. So, there were times where I would get mad at him and he would get mad at me. But at the end of the day, because the relationship that we had, we were able to kind of push it aside and figure out how to make me a better player and how to make our team a better team. So I love my time playing for him and both of my other coaches there as well.
And you played Bentley in your first Atlantic Hockey playoff experience. What did you take away from that whole experience, even though your team lost?
That was a tough one for me. I was like kind of in and out of the lineup at the time. I think that game I was dressed as third or fourth liner. I think what I learned most is that in a playoff series, you can't get greedy at any point. I mean, the first game, I'm pretty sure we beat them by like 5 or 6 goals. And guys were thinking, all right, we're going to come into tomorrow. We're just going to, walk out of this one 2-0. We're going to sweep them and we're going to move on to the next. And in college hockey, especially, you can't do that. You have to be extremely driven. You have to be ready to go at all times. You could beat a team by 7 goals one night. They can beat you by 7 the next. So I think what I learned most from that playoffs was that you can't take your foot off the pedal until the job is officially done. And that year we took our foot off the pedal. We lost the second game by 4 or 5 goals, and we lost the third game in overtime. So I think moving forward, that was something that we had kind of instilled in ourselves, that we weren't going to take the foot off the pedal no matter what the score was or what the series was at. We were going to keep going and keep driving. So that was probably what we learned most about that series.
And then you finally won your first Atlantic Hockey Series over RIT your sophomore season. Talk about that series and what it meant to your team and to you personally.
That series was an absolute blast. Being a sophomore and experiencing the loss the year before to Bentley, it was heartbreaking. So getting to go into RIT and play RIT in front of all of their fans and take away the second and the third game, it was just absolutely incredible. And the second game was honestly something that I'll remember forever. We tied the game with about a minute left, and we went into triple overtime, and we had kind of an unsung hero of ours who was such a hard worker. Like, sometimes didn't always get rewarded for his hard work, but that game, he got his opportunity in the third overtime, stepped on the ice, and, really made RIT pay for it with the third overtime goal. So that was something I'll remember for a long time. It was an absolute blast beating them. And, that series really beat us up. We ended up losing in the next round, but I think we learned a lot from ourselves and as a team and what we had in the locker room, that we were capable of beating anybody in our conference.
And your team made a lot of improvements from your freshman season into your junior season and even to your senior season. What did you do in those off seasons to have such a big improvements your junior and senior year at Sacred Heart?
For me personally, I would say the type of training and I was doing in the summer, I completely changed my training and my nutrition. I got into like a more structured formatted gym that kind of fit me better. I learned more about my body and how my body works on different types of things I intake. And for me, I think that staying with that and sticking with that throughout the year is kind of what, helped me become a better player. As far as the team, I think it would be a lot to do with our assistant coach that came in, Paul Kirtland. He kind of assessed what we had, and he helped CJ Maritolo and Scott McDougall kind of round out and fix, what they fixed a lot at the time, the two of them, but there was just a couple things that they couldn't kind of get their eye on, and Paul was able to flip it a little bit and fix it up. So I think, having him come in and change the mentality and the demeanor and the way that we went about our business was absolutely huge. He expected your best every day, no matter what. And I think that's why we had so much success these past 2 years. And I think that's why, our senior class especially, we were, out of the 4 guys graduating, all 4 could easily play pro hockey. One is deciding to go to graduate school, one signed an NHL contract, and me and one other are waiting, for the American League to make decisions. So I think that the improvement came from a culture shock and a culture change that CJ and Paul and Scott instilled in us in order for us to become winners.
Now, speaking of improvements, what was your biggest improvement on the ice you feel like from your freshman season?
I think it's coming back to that defensive side. I think that I came in thinking that I could cheat and just score goals and run around and do whatever I wanted on the ice. And it's not that I did that on purpose. It was more I was never taught the right way. And I think, for me, the biggest improvement is being reliable. I think I'm more reliable in the D zone now. I think my coaches, my teammates, everybody can trust me on the ice to know that I'll do my job to make sure we can keep the puck out of the net before going the other way and putting the puck in their net. So I think that's probably my biggest improvement by far from freshman year.
And you lost to RIT in your junior year of the Atlantic Hockey Playoffs. What was the difference in that series versus the one you had your sophomore year?
I think the difference that year, I think it was I don't want to say the drive, but I want to say we were a little worn down. I don't want to come up with excuses, but I think as a team we were pretty tired, and you could see it going into game 3. We didn't have it. Me personally, like I couldn't find my rhythm. I couldn't get going. I got demoted from a top 6 guy to the 13th forward in the 3rd game of that series. So, me personally, I couldn't get going. I couldn't get into a rhythm. I wasn't doing things the right way. I wasn't playing hard. There were certain aspects of my game that just didn't feel right, and I just couldn't figure out how to mesh them together. So I think that was a lot of the way for the team as well. We couldn't kind of just figure out how to mesh together at that time. We were playing really well at the end of regular season, but we just kind of felt like, I think guys were just tired, and eventually when you're in that long of a season, it just kind of takes wear and tear on you. So I think that was probably the biggest difference between sophomore and junior year.
However, you had a great senior year, you and your team as well. At what point during the regular season did you realize just how good your team was going to be?
That's a good question. I think when you practice with the team every single day, you kind of see who's capable of what, how hard they work, how driven they are, the way people compete in practice and games. Like if you have a guy who's competing hard in practice, he's going to compete hard in games. So I think at the beginning of the year, I kind of looked at it and I was like, wow, like we have something special here. Like guys are working hard, guys are competing hard. Like we want this. Like the new guys who came in after our class, they wanted it. They wanted to change everything. So I think we started off a little rocky, actually. We started off 0-5. Me personally, I started off pretty rocky too. I was still in that funk from the season before, and I was playing, 4th line, 13th forward. And, eventually we made a couple switches after the 5 games. We were playing really well. We just couldn't put it together. And, after the 5 games, things started clicking a little bit. We started putting together. And I think right around the Christmas time, we were first place in the league. And I think at Christmas when I got to go home and step away for a little bit and kind of realize what we had done already and what we had in front of us, I thought that, wow, like we have something special this year. And then I was, in my mind, I'm thinking, we can make a run for, the Atlantic Hockey Championship. And then, within a month, we win that Connecticut Ice tournament. And once we won that tournament and we beat Yale and Quinnipiac both, I knew right then and there that we had a chance to win the Atlantic. We were going to win the Atlantic, and then we were going to move on to the national tournament. We were going to make some noise in the national tournament. So I think right around Christmas time is when I started realizing how special the group we had.
And speaking of the Connecticut Ice Tournament, this year Sacred Heart won it, the first ever Connecticut Ice Tournament. Talk about that tournament and winning it as a whole, and just Connecticut hockey and just how much it's been growing since you've arrived there.
Yeah, in my 4 years, by far, I mean, we didn't get to obviously compete for an Atlantic Championship this year, but I think by far the greatest thing that's ever happened in my hockey career was winning that Connecticut Ice Tournament. And, we hosted it this year at Webster Bank. So obviously the other 3 schools have a pretty big surrounding, like worldwide. So, I mean, anybody in the state of Connecticut can just come down to Bridgeport and watch, but Sacred Heart kind of has a smaller, I guess, alumni. I mean, the school is growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but people typically tend to branch off. But if you're from Connecticut, you're a fan of UConn, you're a fan of Yale, you're a fan of Quinnipiac, like you're just a fan. You don't have to go there. So for us to host and kind of have that tournament, I think it was 7 or 8 minutes into the game, Jason Cotton had scored 2 goals against Yale. And this was the first time that we had ever almost had Webster Bank completely full. And I want to say like 40% of the crowd was Sacred Heart fans. They were our students. They were our peers. They were our friends. And I think when Jason scored his second goal and I saw the eruption, because while I was sitting on the bench, I saw the eruption in the crowd. I knew it was like, guys, like, we're going to win this whole entire thing. We're going to win this tournament. We're going to do something special here. So I think that for the program too, just kind of making some noise, letting everybody know that just because we're an Atlantic hockey team doesn't mean we're bottom of the barrel. We were top 20 for almost 10 weeks. I think we proved beating Quinnipiac as badly as we did that we could play with anybody in the country. It didn't matter your ranking, didn't matter our ranking, and that we were ready to fight and we were ready to play and we were ready to make some noise moving forward. So I think that was by far the best thing that's ever happened in my hockey career, like watching my other teammates and my peers and my coaches, like everybody be able to enjoy that feeling of finally making noise and making an impact was one of the most special things I've ever experienced.
Now, you were supposed to play Robert Morris before everything got shut down because of COVID. How'd you find out? What was your reaction knowing that you played your last college game?
Yeah, so we were supposed to play Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. That was the 3-game series at us for Robert Morris. And then going into Thursday's game in the morning time, the NHL had announced they'd canceled, the NBA had canceled. There was rumors that the NCAA was looking into canceling and stuff. So, you have no choice but to prepare yourself to play the game that afternoon. You can't just show up not ready and then, God forbid, you get on the ice. What are you going to do? So we all showed up ready to go, and we warmed up. Team warmed up before the game. We were, playing soccer in the hallway and warming up as a team. And, afterwards we all came in, coach talking to us, and our athletic director came in our locker room, which is pretty, in hockey, nobody comes in the room other than the team and the coaches and the training staff. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're part of school. Usually you don't allow people in the locker room. We knew before the game, him walking in there, as well as the president of our school walking in there, like while we were warming up, it was weird. They walk in and they just say, kind of sit down, let's talk. And they kind of told us it was all over. So, I was going in there expecting to play game 1 against Robert Morris. And the crazy thing is I after that, I showered, I put my suit on, I packed my hockey bag, and I walked out of Webster Bank for what could be the last time until, hopefully when I'm a pro this year, I can have the chance to go back. But, I put my suit on that day and I walked out, and I haven't been back since. So it was honestly like, it didn't hit me right away what was taking place and what was going on. It kind of took a while to settle in, but it was gut wrenching. It took a while to kind of get over, but with everything going on and how crazy the virus actually was, I ended up getting rid of all my furniture to one of the freshmen who needed it. And I think Thursday we got the news around like 3 o'clock. And then I think Sunday at 7 p.m., I had already driven all the way back to Florida with all my stuff. I was already all the way home. So, no, it was a terrible kind of reaction, when I saw CJ letting us know that it was all over, and I could kind of see the tears in his eyes because he felt for our senior class especially. That's when it's kind of gut wrenching when your coaches feels so bad for you that you just don't know how to process it. So that was tough, but it's adversity, and that's the way of the world, man. Like sometimes things like that happen. You just have to continue moving forward.
Now, looking back at your Sacred Heart college career as a whole, what will you remember the most?
Probably the friends I made. I made some really good friends over my 4 years that will last a lifetime, and that and winning the Connecticut Ice, and then I think other than the friends part, I think changing the program. Not that I did that single-handedly. I think my class and the classes that followed. I think my class, the class of 2020, was the first wave of instilling a change. And I think, bringing in guys like Mike Lee from Vermont, who ended up winning the Defenseman of the Year first conference, bringing in a guy like Jason Cotton from Northeastern, who was the MVP of our league and just signed an NHL contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think bringing these guys in on top of guys like Vito Bavaro and I, and Max Luco, who's actually a redshirt, he was in our class, but he'll be playing again next year. I think bringing in the right players to kind of fill it out, and then bring in more players year after year who have the same goals in mind. I think helping change the program into a winning culture was something that I'll never forget. We took a team that was ranked 60th for a couple of years in a row, including our first year, and we made them a top 20. We helped reach a top 20 team for 8 to 10 weeks, I believe it was. So, that's something that I take a lot of pride in. I'm not saying I did it by myself by any means. There was a team effort by far, and the younger group that came in had the same vision, and that's where I love the fact that I think we left the jersey in a better place, but I think the jersey is going to continue to be left in a better place because of how great of kids and great of hockey players and passionate players that are currently at the school are. So I think that's the one thing, the friends side and changing the program was definitely the biggest part for me.
And we are now in the non-hockey segment of the podcast where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first one is, what music do you listen to before a game?
This past 4 years, it's been a little different. On my way to the rink, I'll switch it up. If I get into a funk where, I'm not producing offensively, I'll just completely change the genre. So I'm anywhere from like an old school alternative to maybe a little pregame rap. Sometimes the house EDM music if that's what's going on in the locker room. So a little bit of everything. I love all music, so I'm not really too picky.
Now, what's been your favorite road arena you've ever played in?
I would have to say Penn State this year. Penn State was awesome. It was their home opener, and they had a whiteout, so the entire building was white. So it was incredible. It was so cool to see, and I didn't play very much that game, so I got to really sit back and realize how cool it was to be there and be in the facility. So it was definitely Penn State. Penn State was cool.
Now, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
I'll go out on a limb here. Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
I'm a big Tiger Woods fan. I believe that he's one of the most passionate athletes ever. I think he's one of the greatest athletes ever. Despite being a golfer, some people might disagree with me, but I'd love to pick his brain on the mental side and how he stayed so driven and focused during those times where he was the most dominant player in any sport, in the history of sports. So I'd probably say Tiger Woods.
Now, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Biggest pet peeve. Not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I'm a big sleeper. I like to make sure I get my rest in, make sure I'm prepared for every day that's ahead of me. And I think I'm a little cranky if I don't get my sleep. So definitely sleep.
Now, what is the best pizza place in Connecticut? Because obviously there's a lot of good ones.
Ooh. That's tough. I'll probably go with Colony because it was close. I got to go to Colony a lot. So I would say Colony in Fairfield was my favorite.
And speaking of your teammates, which one of your teammates was the funniest?
Oof, that's tough. Is that Sacred Heart related?
Yeah, Sacred Heart.
Oh man, that's hard. Um, Mark Johnstone was very funny. I would funniest though. I would probably have to go with Nick Boyajian. He's hilarious, one of the funniest guys I've ever met. And when he gets with, I sat in between him, Nick Boyajian, and Ryan Steele, and they're like best friends. They live together in the same house. So I sat in the middle of them, and then when two of them would just go at it every day, and I was right in the middle of it. It was like absolute comedy every single day. I loved it. So those two are pretty funny too. Mark Johnstone's really funny as well.
Speaking of style, who has the best style on the team?
Oh, I don't want to float anybody's boat. I don't want to give anybody too much confidence here. God, I can't believe I'm going to say it. I'm going to go Vito Bavaro. He's got some good style. He dresses well. Marcus Joseph's got good style as well. He dresses well. We have a lot of well-dressed guys who like to, look nice before games, after games kind of deal. And, when we're going out and hanging out. So, yeah, probably those two. I'll be up there.
Now, back to some hockey questions. Now, what advice would you give someone trying to make Division I college hockey?
I don't know. I think just sticking with the process, knowing what you're capable of and getting help where help is needed. I think a lot of times the reason I struggled for so long to get a Division I commitment was because I leaned too much on myself rather than getting help from others. And I think having a good surrounding cast, whether it's a family advisor / agent, I guess you want to call it, or good coaches that want to help you out, or knowing people, previous coaches, whatever it is. I think it's about surrounding yourself with people who want to help you, and that and working hard, man. There's no substitute for working hard. I think if I could give a suggestion to anybody, it would just be to keep your foot down, pedal to the metal, and try to work hard. Because when you get to college, there's no other hockey like it. So that would definitely be my advice.
And what are your plans after graduation, whether it's hockey related or non-hockey related?
Yeah. So right now it's just kind of even keel, just training. I'm training 5 days a week, skating 2 to 3, and trying to turn pro here in hopefully the next couple of weeks. The American League and the East Coast League announced that they're going to try to have a soft date, opening date of December 4th. So my goal is to try to get an American Hockey League deal. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible quite yet, but that's my goal, and that's what my agent's goal is right now. It's what we set out to do. So, we're going to give it some time and wait for these teams to kind of figure out what's going on with them, because a lot of them don't even know. They have no idea what's going on either. So I think once things start kicking up a little bit, we'll have a better idea whether it's in the American League or the ECHL. So definitely going to play next year, though. I want to continue play, hopefully, as long as I can.
And is there any shout-outs you'd like to give before we let you go?
Yeah, just the guys at Sacred Heart. They've dealt with a lot of adversity. Obviously, having our best career year our best program year last year, and they had some losses. They lost a couple players who were supposed to be returning, and they lost their assistant coach, and they're bringing in a new coach. So they got a lot of adversity to deal with, but the character in that locker room is very special, especially with the captains and whatnot. So I'd just like to give a shout out to those guys, and hopefully I can't wait to see them in the future. Hopefully continue to carry on the success that we had last year.
Well, thanks so much, Austin, for coming on. I wish you all the best in the future, and stay safe out there.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
No problem.